G'day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the performance of the physical Goten, Trunks and Marron. And basically we're going to see just how good they are in DBZ Dokkan Battle. Now I think compared to how good the Casserole unit is, these guys are a little bit disappointing. They are a youth lead, although that doesn't mean too much. They are also a physical type lead, also doesn't mean too much. They have a decent amount of starting attack and defense, but they lose attack and defense with each turn that passes. They do launch an additional super attack when there is a youth category ally in the same rotation, and they do gain a 50% evasion chance from the 5th turn, which is okay. But that's about it. There's really not too much that kind of, elevates them as a unit. Link-wise, they have Budding Warrior, Innocence. They also have Hero of Justice and Patrol. They just a little bit of a wonky unit. I think overall they probably sit in existence of being a decent unit without being anything crazy. I think overall they just sit in one of those positions whereby their original design was, and this can happen with easy A's, their original design was not fantastic, and this kind of limited their easy A. Now overall they're not terrible. 150 with double support, but 120 to around 150, in terms of like K defense. That does raise a bit on their super attack as well. But the big issue that they have, basically, to cut a long story short, is realistically speaking, they lose attack and defense each turn. And this is not the best scenario for them. It's always a little bit disconcerting to, have like this loss, I want to say, of attack and defense. It's the same thing that happened with Super Saiyan 3 Broly back in the day. Losing defense like this is never a good situation for a unit. Whenever you lose defense or attack, it immediately just diminishes your value in pretty much every event. Now the evasion is nice. Them gaining the evasion basically when they're kind of maxing out their lost attack, I think is good. But I do think they could have had a little bit more favorable situation for them as a unit. Now link-wise, they're okay. Like I said, they've got Shattering the Limit, they've got Innocence, they've got Budding Warrior, Patrol, and Hero of Justice are also relatively decent, and they just aren't that great. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like to usually say units aren't great, but without any significant utility, compared to the strength of youth units that we've received, when you look at like physical Goten and AGL Trunks that recently got there, Easy A or Dokkan Awakenings and that. I think like when you compare those units to these ones, it definitely feels like Marron, Trunks and Goten are a little bit undercooked, at least from my perspective. Now obviously, I do think they aren't terrible. If you pick them up, they'll still help out your team, but they're just not going to be strictly useful in a lot of content. Outside of beginner accounts, a lot of accounts won't have distinct value in grabbing these units. You'll have some value, but you're not going to have distinct value, and I think that's, like, for me, the biggest shame with them as a unit. It's just that they struggle, they do struggle with that kind of vibe. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, I think, they're a decent unit. I just don't think they're going to be a free-to-play unit you're going to use a lot beyond maybe the odd occasion. I think at the end of the day, that's about it. For me, link-wise, not a lot of value in link leveling them. Their links are clearly split down the middle. You have the Defenders of Justice build with Patrol, Hero of Justice, etc. And then you have links like, for example, Innocence, Budding Warrior, etc. So those are your links. That's kind of your vibe. No real reason to link level these guys. Beyond my usual sentiment that link leveling free-to-play is not necessarily a good idea, these guys are really just not worth your time. With that being said, if you need a youth option for the original SBR or maybe the original LGE, then they're there for you and they'll be solid. But beyond that, they're not gonna bring up any trees. I think if they had built in more additionals, they'd like guarantee 2 or 3 additionals or something like that, I think then it would have been a much better experience for these guys as a unit, or even just stacking defense, something to overtake the loss that they occurred. But yeah, beyond that, not really much to say. But that kind of covers everything you need to know, really. And I'll see you guys in the next one. But of course, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Maybe some of you are going to use them, or have used them, or find them useful in certain events, and I'd love to hear it. But yeah, that's going to be it from me. So, as always guys, sorry for this one being a little bit disappointing. I think overall, they could have just done a bit better with the unit. I just really find that this is probably the first time in a while where I found the unit is just not that great. So yeah, I guess there's not really too much to say. Beyond the fact that, you know, grab them for the collection's sake, I don't really have a rationale between getting these guys. It's probably the first time I'm gonna say it's probably better off not grabbing a free-to-play unit. Even from an augmenting your box point of view, they really only fill up a slot on the most basic teams. But bye!